Okay, guys, then we're going to do our first panel. Can I maybe ask my first panel to just join me on stage so long while we open the floor? Christian, Matt, Craig, Ayanda. But Christian, will you come stand here next to me for starters, please? Okay, guys, before we climb into this next panel, we just thought we'll take a moment tonight to just recognize this man. Christian has added a couple of letters behind his name this last week. This man is officially a chartered accountant, South Africa. Can we? And he is the very first person to come through Outsource CFO's CA program, and he's just qualified, and he has been a part of raising, was it 48 million rand worth of funding to date in the last 12 odd months? So yeah, very, very proud of this man next to me, and he knows so much about fundraising. I think we would have loved to have been in his shoes by the time we qualified, light years ahead of us. Well done, and congratulations, man. Okay, guys. So these are all of our fundraising experts. We've asked them for tips, tools, tricks, like what can we learn from them about fundraising. All of them have been involved in different kinds of raises. Christian, take us away.
Thanks. It's been on. Look. It is on. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Lynn. Really appreciate that introduction. And we've been asked to speak a bit about tips on capital raising. I think capital raising is such a broad term. It emphasizes everything from debt to equity and all the weird and wonderful instruments in the middle. So I'm very privileged to have a panel today that has a very wide spread of experience throughout this entire spectrum. So just like I want to quickly give a hand for my panel. Then we'll go into a quick introduction. Ayanda, can you maybe just tell us a bit about yourself and your fundraising experience?
Thanks so much, Christian. As he's mentioned, my name is Ayanda Vabaza Mvandaba, and I've worked with Christian a little bit, and it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know him and seeing his potential. I am an entrepreneur. I think that's what I would call myself, a little bit of a capital entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur, as Sitlachane has mentioned. Previously, I used to work with SMMEs to assist them with fundraising, and I've now graduated. I'm now on the investor side of things. So managed to gather some money, and now I'm investing. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, great.
Hi everyone, my name is Craig West. I'm a co-owner and CFO of WCV Holdings. We are a construction civil engineering company. We've managed to raise funds with the assistance of OCFO with age growth to the sum of about 20 million. It's assisted us in our growth to date to where we are the biggest black youth-owned civil engineering company in South Africa.
Yeah, evening everyone. Matt Kluis, co-founder and CFO at Comparisure. I started my career in the actuarial world, moved from there into consulting. Most recently was quite excited to quit my corporate finance job in London and move back to South Africa to really commit to, trying to solve some of the problems that Sitlachane was chatting on with our business solutions. I've still got goosebumps, by the way.
That's amazing. Yes, as you can see, widespread between debt and equity experience and just fundraising specialists in general. Ayanda, you're sitting right next to me, so I think I'll pick on you first. So Ayanda, one of the things I hear quite often is people are always excited about all the successful fundraisers you see on LinkedIn and social media. But the truth is there's also quite a lot of unsuccessful fundraisers. And people will ask me quite often, what's the biggest reason for this? And as I need to confess, there's quite a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons are entrepreneurs are not prepared when they enter fundraising. They don't really know what they get themselves into. So is there anything that you can you recommend how can entrepreneurs be better prepared when they start their fundraising journey?
Thanks, Christian. I want to share a quick story from 2 weeks ago. So the businesses that we're investing in, and when I say we, it's myself and my husband have started a family business, our family office, and we're investing in township economy businesses. So with a keen focus on businesses that give back to the township economy. And so we had an entrepreneur come to us for funding just 2 weeks ago, and that's in the gaming space, and him wanting to set up like a little gambling store in the township. So I said, can I please see your proposal? Can I see your pack? What have you done already? How far are you? What's happening with the licensing and all of that? And he just like stormed out. And then he came back and he said, I'm sorry, I just needed to clear it for myself, because that's the problem with you investors. You just want to see how well I can write English. And I just thought, okay, I get it. I get his frustration. It's been 3 years of him, sitting in these meetings and talking to people, but no one is actually giving him feedback. No one is saying, actually, you've got a great idea, but this is how we can make it better. And this is how we can package it nicely for an investor, for someone that's willing to put money in your business, but also needs something out of it. And that has given him a whole new level of hopelessness and fatigue. But it's also a function of the entrepreneurs that I'm seeing in the township, when no one is willing to give them a chance. So there's a lot of fatigue that goes into it. There's also a lack of feedback for the entrepreneurs. So they don't know where they could improve. They don't know where they're going wrong. But also they're just not prepared to sit in front of a CJ or Ayanda or a Dana or a Low and present what the potential returns could be and what the impact could be and what does the 5-year forecast look like. And it's so easy to say, but you're not prepared, but they just don't know. They just don't know better, and they don't have access to the resources that can help them know.
Sure. Thanks, Ayanda. That is, really some food for thought. Matt, I think you've sat on the other side of the table, being the investee, had to endure the investor grillings. Does any of this resonate with you?
Definitely. I think Ayanda touched on so many key points there. I mean, the first thing to acknowledge is that fundraising is really, really hard. It's really hard. I think Paul Graham captured it really well. He's one of the best sort of out there in terms of advice, but it's hard in two ways. One, it's just intrinsically hard to get people to part with large sums of money. That's always going to be hard, right? The other part, and Ayanda, I think you sort of summarized it so nice, is it's hard, and the word he used was like, it's hard like a puzzle, it's confusing. What do I do? Who do I speak to? What do I put in my deck? And that's the piece where you should be getting advice. You should be getting, input. And I think sometimes on the flip side, founders, we're always trying to walk through walls and just make it happen, and it's fine, I'll download, and this looks good, there's money on the table, I'll take it. But we forget to pause and stop and get that advice. So when we went through our funding, ask your friends to look at your term sheet, ask your professors, ask the guys at OCFO, put it out there. So, be open to asking for advice and go for it and get that input. The other thing you touched on, which I think is quite relevant in terms of, it's okay not to always have an exact answer. You said, what must I put in my 5-year projections? And it's true. And I think investors, often ask, how much are you raising? And they ask because they've got a typical check size and they want to know if you fit in their portfolio. But a good answer is, well, it depends. If we can get 2 million, then here's the strategy. We'll move out of the garage and we'll hire a few friends. If we can get 10 million, we can start hiring the engineering team, And I think these days you need plan C. We have a plan not to raise money. Funding raising was always hard. Now it's an order of magnitude harder. So I think, those are some of the points that resonated.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned it's hard, and it definitely is. I think one of the things that's really hard for entrepreneurs to know is when it comes to equity raising is around the valuations. People always ask, do I show my valuation? When's a good time to lay the numbers on the table? So just want to hear your thoughts on that as well.
That's a tough one, definitely. A few thoughts there. I think, founders are competitive people. You want to be the best, you want to go for it, you want to go big, and the valuation is often the only sort of public metric that people see, and so you have this undue sort of focus on, we must try and get the highest valuation possible, which is clearly, maybe it's not clear to everyone in the room, but it's not always the right tactic. So if you start fundraising, don't optimize for valuation. Without the terms as well, that the valuation is irrelevant. It's your terms or my valuation or your terms. That's the debate that often happens. The other thing that really resonates with me is, when do you share it? It's critical. You have to share it at some point. You need to agree, okay? But try and get a yes/no answer first from the investor. Let's try to get on the same page. We're reasonable people. Do you want to invest? I'm sure we'll land on the right valuation eventually, but let's decide. Let's have a meeting of minds. Let's see if there's good fit, chemistry, etc. And then if you've got a reasonable investor and you're dealing with reasonable founders, then then move on to the valuation. Put your numbers out there and have the discussion.
Well, yeah, no, that really makes it practical for that age-long question. Thanks so much for sharing. Greg, over to you. So you just mentioned earlier about that sizable debt deal you did. Luckily, you didn't have to struggle with the valuation arm wrestle. But hearing what other speakers have said, how has your experience been with the debt fundraising? Is it equally as difficult? Do you see it, is it quite a journey, or is it as easy as walking to a bank and signing an application form?
Well, signing the application form, you all have to do regardless. So, we had to do that. With valuations, I think, or rather with equity, you have to consider you're going to give up control. Are you going to let someone get in the boat with you and take the ride, take all the risks with you? Whereas with debt funding, of course, you have a term, you have an agreed term, you have to repay, you have to meet the debt funder's requirements. So the approach is different. With the debt funder, you don't need to show a valuation, you need to show a proof and an ability to grow. So that's the route that we took. Difficult, yes, it was extremely difficult. It took us, just to get this fund in place, it took us more than a year to do. We almost gave up quite a few times. We've approached banks numerous times. Even our own bank, we were declined for funding. It was extremely difficult, but I think what mattered most is that we just never gave up. A tip I can give on when you go out to get debt funding, you will definitely need to know your business very well. You need to be able to convey that to the debt funder, to have someone actually look at you and go, yes, I see potential here, and yes, I would like to be I would like to have a hand in that growth. So we went on that route. We did struggle tremendously, like I said earlier. I can't emphasize that enough, just how tough it was for us. So you should... Sorry, I'm just eating a blank here. Yes, going back to knowing your business well, we had to somehow relay that info and propose it to OCFO. They helped us, of course, put everything together. It was quite a few months that we went back and forth, just setting up the whole system. And at the end of the day, when we presented it, somehow it worked out. We say somehow, even though we still had the confidence in what we were doing, but at the end of the day, we still expected a no, hard no. And right at the end, I think right at the end, we had one interview and we just said, you know what, guys, let's not do it. It's not worth it. We've tried so hard. And OCFO called us. I think it was Dana called us and just said, guys, just come on, just try this, and what happens, happens. And well, it worked out well for us.
Sure. No, well on that grid. I think it's actually, it's always difficult to hear something is difficult, right? But but it's still just so encouraging to hear the success stories of how you get through it, and to hear that other entrepreneurs the size of it. And I saw quite a few nods as you were speaking. So, yeah, I think it can be difficult. You guys have really been a beacon of light for a lot of people. And I'm sure the tips that you've shared today will encourage a lot of people just to go into fundraising with open eyes, but realize, with preparedness, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So thanks so much, everyone.
Yeah, I would just, do we have time? And strict schedule here, it's accountants. No, I was just going to add, I think there is a fun element to fundraising, and for me, it's the chance to tell your story. You know, you get to get out there and you step away from the detail and the code and all the day and day. And as hard as it is, you get to step out and tell your story, which for me is the most exciting part about fundraising.
Awesome. Maybe we'll use the last minute to just hear if there's any last bits of valuable golden nuggets we can share.
I'll start because I'm the lady. The only thing that I say over and over again is know your story and don't betray your potential. You know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, why you started, and it's so easy to get lost in fundraising. You want to give out, you want debt, and someone says, no, give me 50% of your business. It's so easy when you're desperate to give up equity, and it is so expensive, but do not betray yourself in that manner.
Well, I'd say just never give up. I mean, we still have times where you sit and go, oh my word, I'm so tired. I don't know if I can keep going. But when you hit that brick wall, the main thing is to just not give up. You don't know what's waiting for you at the end. And 9 out of 10 times, it's great. I've had much more no's than I've had yeses, but those yeses has been extremely valuable. It changed everything. So don't give up.
Yeah, I'd add to that is, draw on your network, draw on the people in this room. A piece of advice that I found very helpful was, if you're doing your Series A or you want to do that in a year's time, speak to people who've just done that, who've just gone through that process. So that keeps you inspired. It gets you through, the no's that you always have to deal with. So I found that very sort of helpful and inspirational. Like, look to the guys who are just a year ahead. Go speak to them. How did they do it? How did they get through all the challenges? So I think that's my parting word.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I think we can give the amazing panel a hand for all this.